Welcome to MathomBooks. We are on the road, traveling back to California from Taos, New Mexico, where we did some whitewater rafting. The sun is going down in the west. It's a beautiful evening. We're just about at that twilight time, and we have a little bit more light left, so we figured we'd talk a little bit about The Two Towers, the second book of the Lord of the Rings trilogy by J.R.R. Tolkien. We, as you know, started the Fellowship of the Ring a few weeks ago. Recently finished that, the first book. And we're now, it feels like about halfway, maybe a little less than halfway into The Two Towers. Does that seem about right? Yeah, it doesn't matter.
There's 2 books in each one, probably
less than half, okay. We're still in the first book of the 2 books that make up The Two Towers. It gets confusing for people, because we're in, technically, book 3, volume number 2 of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which was actually only one book. Tolkien wrote one book, but his publishers made him break it up into 3 parts. So it's not really a trilogy. But by this point, you know, it's kind of been so well established as a trilogy, we think of it that way, and it works, you know. So anyways, The Two Towers begins with what happens with Boromir. And Aragorn, if you recall, Frodo had just fled the group because Boromir had tried to take the ring. Sam follows Frodo. So the Fellowship of the Ring, the 9 walkers, who were only 8 because they lost Gandalf back in the Fellowship of the Ring, are all kind of scattered about. Merry and Pippin were off by themselves looking for Frodo. Aragorn is up at the top by himself. Legolas and Gimli were kind of together. Everyone's looking for Frodo. In the midst of that, all these orcs show up and begin this battle. And Aragorn comes to the aid of Boromir, but it's too late. And what happens, they have their discussion right before Boromir passes. Legolas and Gimli find Aragorn, so there's the 3 of them now, and they're basically looking for Merry and Pippin. They're like, where's Merry and Pippin?
There's looking for all the hobbits. They don't know.
True, good, you're right, good point. They're looking for all the hobbits. And one of the last things that Boromir was able to tell Aragorn is that he saw orcs not kill Merry and Pippin, but grab them up, yeah, and run off with them. So,
and Aragorn asks him if Frodo was with them and which hobbits did they take, like asks him to lead.
Oh, so I see.
They don't know if the orcs also took Frodo or what.
Right. They spend some time giving a noble and honorary kind of goodbye to Boromir. There's a beautiful song in there that they sing, and it's told in a way that each wind, the wind from the west, the wind from the south, the wind from the north, brings kind of tidings or brings a story, and it's talking about Boromir. Really beautiful, one of my favorites of the whole book. Tezi and I sang it together. She doesn't want to sing it right now, unfortunately.
We sang it along with...
Yeah, we sang it with the book, yeah. The audio book, because he sings them. But anyways, maybe you'll get to hear that at some point. So, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli do eventually figure out that Frodo and Sam are probably not with Merry and Pippin. They kind of figure out that Frodo and Sam have gone off on their own to complete the quest to destroy the ring. And so Aragorn says, it's now our task to save Merry and Pippin. The fate of the ring is no longer in our hands, he says. And so they begin tracking those orcs that they believe kidnapped Merry and Pippin. Now this goes on for a while. It's a long, arduous, tiring, series of scenes where they're tracking these 2 hobbits, and a lot happens. A lot goes on, a lot of time passes, and finally they meet up with the Riders of Rohan. Tezi knows one of my favorite scenes where Éomer has his verbal confrontation with the three. What I love about it, and I want to hear your thoughts on this too, Tezi, but what I love about that scene so much, kind of in a general way, is, of course, it's all Tolkien's writing. Boromir is, in many ways, perplexed and at awe with Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas, yet he doesn't trust them, and the law of the land is supposed to tell them to kind of kick him out or even kind of capture him, take him back to the king. But there's something about Aragorn especially that Boromir naturally... Sorry, what do I keep saying?
Oh my gosh. This whole thing's about Éomer.
Éomer. I didn't say that.
I'm pretty sure you said that.
Sorry, my brain's going. Éomer. Something about him deep inside realizes that there's something special about Aragorn. He kind of like harkens to him almost immediately. And so he does trust them, and eventually offers his help even. What were your thoughts on that whole scene, Tezi?
I don't know. I mean, I liked it. Gimli has some good lines in there.
Gimli has some great lines. You start to see the friendship and kinship between Legolas and Gimli starting to form, because Éomer famously threatens Gimli. What does he say to him?
I would cut off your head, beard and all, Master Dwarf, if it stood but a little higher from the ground.
But Legolas, faster than eyes can, see, has his bow pulled and says, "You would die before your stroke fell."
Yeah, he stands not alone.
He stands not alone, right? Legolas standing up for his friend Gimli. Love that kind of stuff. Fantastic. But what's really interesting about the writing of the Two Towers is after that scene, or shortly after that scene, they go and they're looking for these two hobbits, who they are told by Éomer, "Hey, sorry, but they're probably dead. We killed all those orcs, that you're chasing, and we didn't find any hobbits, etc." So Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn go and they search the ruins, and they're like looking for these hobbits. Well, you get some clues as to what happened to the hobbits. Next chapter, it cuts all the way back to Pippin and Merry, way back when they first started searching for Frodo back at Amon Hen, back at the breaking of the Fellowship, at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring. So in a sense, you follow this storyline of the three tracking the hobbits, and then you go all the way back to the beginning of the Two Towers, if you will, and follow Merry and Pippin's story as they are captives of the orcs. What were your thoughts on all that stuff, Tezi, in terms of was it odd hearing the orcs talk? And because that really doesn't happen as much in the films.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I mean, you get a little bit of that in the films. You get kind of the two sides, the orcs from Mordor and the orcs from Isengard, and you get there's kind of some strife or something between them. So yeah, you can see that more in depth in the book, a lot more in depth. But also what I liked about that section was seeing more of Merry and Pippin, especially Pippin. He does some things that are really smart, and he has some good ideas and really courageous, and you don't see that side of Pippin as much in the movie, I don't think. He's shown more as, the fool of a took, which he is also in the book, but there's also these other wise and courageous things that he does. And I think we see that at least later in the movies, but it's cool to see it earlier in the movie.
Yeah, definitely. You see Pippin and Merry working together, and really Merry was kind of out of it for a lot of. Yeah. It seems like he was hit pretty hard, right? I think
he has a bandage on his head.
Yeah, I think an orc hit him with the bottom of a blade, or not the blade, but the hilt of it or something. So Merry was in bad shape, and Pippin was very courageously able to even take off the brooch from Lorien and leave it as a marker.
He gets his bonds untied and ties them back loosely, or cut and ties them back loosely so the orcs won't know. He runs away from the pack to leave footprints and to drop his Lorien brooch thing as another marker.
he's the one that basically thinks of the idea to kind of fool the orc into thinking that they have the ring and that they might give it to him if they let him go. That kind of stuff. Yeah. He was very creative. That was awesome. And so, so you follow that whole story, and it's what's cool about that, what it's kind of fun about kind of looking at the writing of it is you see how Tolkien, and I would argue, masterfully takes two stories and just kind of goes like this. You have all the timelines, and those of you that know, Tolkien actually spent a lot of time even studying the phases of the moon because he wanted the timing to be exactly right, so that when Merry and Pippin were doing something, it corresponded directly with where Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli were, what they saw, and so it all fits together. It's kind of like a mystery. Aragorn, they're trying to solve the mystery of how the hobbits escaped, that sort of thing, and then the Hobbit story tells you how it happened. You come full circle. We just began the chapter, The White Rider. So there's some exciting stuff just around the corner. We've been through the Treebeard chapter, which is a difficult chapter for some people. I enjoy it. I love, the history in Treebeard and all that. What are your thoughts on it, Tezi? I mean, was it?
I don't know. I enjoy it too. I remember hearing people talk about how it was like long or hard to get through, but it didn't feel like that for me the first time I read it or this time. I don't know. I like the ends, and I think like Treebeard and the others, they're always like interrupting or like interspersing some of their own languages and expressions into their speech, and I like it. It's fun.
Yeah. Right. The orcs. Yeah, I love that. One thing, I don't know of any narrator that could pull it off, but in my head, I always try to remember the way Treebeard, and this is where the actual reading of a book can never be surpassed, even by an audiobook or even in a movie. Because to my mind, when I hear the real Treebeard talking, kind of like in my head when I'm reading the book, Treebeard, it's so much bigger and broader and lower, and there's more register to it. Does that make sense? The Rob Inglis, the narrator, does a great job. He gets low, he has a low voice. He can do it pretty well. In the movies, who's the? It's John Rhys Davies, who has that beautiful voice. He's got that great stage voice, and I believe they even do some tweaking, of course, for special effects. And even still, it's just not quite enough. I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I feel that part's a little bit lacking in the audio version, and I wish I could hear it as I really want to hear it. This humongous tree, who is millennia old, speaking very slowly, and how it sounds sonorous, almost like a woodwind instrument, but very large, It's, again, who could reproduce that, right? Nobody. Except in our own heads. But I just wanted to touch on that, because it's one of the parts of it that I wish could be a little bit more, rich. Anyways, I guess that's that. We're losing light pretty low here. I'm not sure how clearly you guys can even see us right now.
Maybe that's better.
But isn't it beautiful, Tezi? Look at that. We just saw the sunset off in the west. Into the west, exactly. Hope fades. We're really blessed, you guys. Still in Arizona, northern Arizona desert. We have the purples and pinks and the orangish colors in the sky right now. We have the Lord of the Rings as our companion. We're very fortunate. So, anyways, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We hope you're enjoying your reading of the Lord of the Rings. Don't forget, we also have been listening to the Tolkien Professor.
Yeah.
We've been catching up more in his classes on the Fellowship of the Ring, and those have been very fun. Tezi's learned more about Tom Bombadil in the past few days than most people learn in their lifetime, and that's kind of cool. All right, thank you. We are MathomBooks. Go find your voice.